Hey guys, welcome to Focus Friday. Today's topic that we want to cover is the topic of leadership. You know, it's really interesting. I have the chance to go out and speak to different companies and teams, and a lot of times when I begin my talk and I kind of start out, I'll ask the audience, raise your hand if you think you're a leader. And I think it's amazing that a lot of times when I go to these companies, there will be only, maybe a bigger audience. There will only be a few people that raise their hands and think of themselves as leaders. And I just think it's kind of ironic that for a lot of people in life, doesn't matter what role you're in, you kind of view yourself as less than what you really are. And you view yourself as, am I really a leader? Am I really making a difference? Can I have an impact? And the truth of the matter is everyone's a leader. Your leadership might look different than mine and mine different than yours, but everybody, no matter what you're called to, whether it's your family, at work, involved in church, in your sport, at school, it really doesn't matter because we're all leaders in some capacity. And we think about leadership is creating change and going where other people aren't willing to go. And, leadership in some ways is doing the right thing over the popular thing. And looking back on my college career in football, I learned this lesson the hard way. After playing college football my freshman year at the University of Missouri, things were going great for me. Life, I felt like I was in control. Life was going great. I didn't really have many complaints, and I was a walk-on football player. And how it works as a walk-on in college is, you essentially have your summers off, and so. I spent my summers working, and I was a counselor and a football coach at Kanakuk Sports Camps, a great camp in Branson, Missouri. But I worked out really hard that summer. My freshman, sophomore year, things were going great. So my summer going into my junior year, I thought, if there was ever a time where I would maybe move up on the depth chart, maybe this would be the year. In college at Division I level, it obviously is pretty tough to move up as a walk-on. You have to really, be willing to play at a high level, and there's a lot of great quarterbacks there. But I thought, maybe this would be a year that I've worked extremely hard. I'm in the best shape I've ever been. Maybe this is the year. And so I show up for the walk-on meeting. So every year you just check in, you have a meeting. And I show up to this walk-on meeting that I had done the last 2 years, and it was very routine. And I walk in the door of this walk-on meeting, and instead of one coach being in the room like there usually was, there was 3 coaches in there. And so that was a little off. And I walk in the room, and I sit down, and one of the coaches was closing the door behind him as I walked in. And so I'm thinking, it's kind of odd. What did I do? Did I fail a class? Did I miss something? And I'm like, I don't think any of those things are true, so I'm not sure what's going on right now. But one of the coaches, he sat down, and he said, Alex, I'm going to shoot you straight. We've over-scholarshiped at quarterback this year, and we don't really have room for you on the team. And it was kind of like, as he told me that, it was kind of like slow motion. Going into my junior season where I thought, hey, this could be a year where maybe I could make a difference, I'm thinking. And he's telling me, we don't have room for you. And in this meeting room, there was 3 other coaches and myself, and he said, Alex, you need to make the decision right here at this table. You need to decide what you want to do. Option number 1 is you're cut from the team, and your time with Mizzou football is over. And option number 2 is we always need assistant volunteer coaches. So you can stay on the team as a volunteer coach, no pay. You're gonna have to do a lot of hard work, but we technically could make room for you. And I remember hearing him tell me that, after I worked 2.5 years, I worked so hard. I thought I was a great role model for guys on the team, all these different things. And here this coach is telling me, we don't have room for you. It's kind of like a business transaction. That's how it felt to me. And I wanted to tell this guy so many different things at that moment, and I just felt like I was called to be there. I built so many relationships, and I had so many friends on the team, and I just felt like God had me there for a reason. And so I decided to stay on the team, and I said, I didn't want to show my emotions to him, but I just said, I'll stay on as volunteer coach. And I remember leaving that meeting, I went and I just drove in my car. I remember just crying, being so emotional, embarrassed. Like God, what am I going to do with my life? Why would you give me the passion of football and then take that away from me? Why would you take something that I thought I was good at and then humiliate me in this way? This was my passion. This was what I wanted to do. And so I had that whole weekend just to kind of sulk in my thoughts and, just kind of be miserable. And the first practice was on Monday. And so, I said, you know what, I'm gonna come into this first practice with just a great attitude. I'm gonna be positive, And so I remember walking into the meeting room and that Monday, and one of the assistant coaches, he says, Alex, come here, I want to show you what your job's gonna be this year. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm thinking I'm gonna go and be a big time coach, make a big impact, call the plays, do things like that. And he pulls me over to this room and he says, here's your role. And he takes out this yellow flag. And he hands me the flag and he says, Alex, this is what we're going to have you do this year. Whenever someone on defense jumps off sides, what you're going to do is you're going to blow your whistle and you're going to throw the flag. And then you're going to walk over to the flag, you're going to pick it up, and you're going to wait. And when another guy comes through the drill, if he jumps offside, you're going to blow the whistle. Don't want to forget that step. And then you're going to throw the flag. And I'm like sitting there going, okay, I can handle that. And I'm like, well, what next? What do you want me to do after that? And he said, well, I mean, that's all we have room for. Like we don't, that's your role. Like that's what we need you to do this year. And I couldn't believe in that moment how humiliated I was, because I went from being in like a second, what I felt like it was a second, I went from being an SEC quarterback to being like a professional flag thrower in an instant. And all my buddies, all my friends, they're getting to live out their dreams and put on their pads and run out of the tunnel and do all these awesome things that I wanted to do. And so for my entire junior season, that's what I did. I virtually showed up to practice. I made copies of practice scripts. I made coffee for the coaches. I did all the little things, but I didn't really have a role on the field. And for me, that was a very challenging part of my life, because in a lot of ways, football for me at that time in my life was a huge part of my identity. And I felt like when that was taken away from me, it was like, who am I? What do I do? How can I even make an impact? And so, I mean, there were some very hard days, and that was one of the biggest things I'd been through in my life as far as adversities in my life. And what I had to decide was, am I just going to let this define me, or am I going to make the best of the situation? And so during that junior season, some pretty cool things happened. I started working on my first book called Thrive You. It's a daily devotional book for athletes, and thousands of people have had the chance to read that over the years, just because there's 100 different athletes in it. It's a cool devotional book. And then we started a student organization on campus called Coach's Corner, where we bring in different speakers. I had some great friends that helped me get that started. And so I was able to have a huge impact that year. And so my entire junior season, I'm doing these things. I'm doing the little things, even when I didn't want to. But some cool things started to happen. The book, the Coach's Corner deal. And then what I thought was really cool was I was able to have conversations with guys on the team that I never probably would have connected with in this way. Guys would come up to me and say things like, man, it's really cool that you're sticking with it. Like I would have quit, or I would have transferred. Like it's pretty impressive that you've stuck with it. And I'm not sharing that in any way to like boast on me by any means. I'm sharing that to share the fact that when you navigate out of humility, and I didn't do a great job all the time, but that humility led to those deeper relationships that year. And so fast forward to my senior year, I got back on the team as a quarterback. My senior year, went to the Citrus Bowl. It was an awesome experience, and I learned so much from that experience. But my point in sharing that story with you, wherever you're at, if you're listening to this in your car, working out, whatever, is this. If I look back on my career at the 3.5, the 4 years that I was a player, and the 1 year, my junior season, where I was essentially a flag thrower, in my mind, I was a nobody. I would argue, and I think a lot of my friends and former teammates and maybe former coaches would even agree that I actually had a bigger impact the year that I thought I was a nobody, the year that I had no title. And so just to encourage you, wherever you're at in your leadership journey, I just want to emphasize that leadership requires no title. You don't need permission from someone to be successful, to go for it, to pursue your dreams. And I think a lot of times, even after my college career, I almost waited around like, man, I wonder, do I have permission to like pursue what I want to, or like to be successful? And you don't need that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to wait on anyone else to tell you to do that. You don't have to be you don't have to be the CEO or the manager or the coach or the starter to make a difference. You can make a difference right where you're at. Doesn't matter if you're making coffee for someone else. Doesn't matter if you're making copies. If you're throwing a flag like I did, you're doing mundane tasks that you think, why in the world am I doing these? But the key to leading where you are currently at is adding value to others every single day. And I think if you focus on adding value, you're going to be so busy adding value to other people that you're not going to have time to worry about what your title is. You're really not. You're going to become more focused on who you're becoming rather than what you do. The what you do part of it isn't as important. It's all about who you're becoming. And so my challenge to you is this week. Ask yourself this simple question. What is one way that I can add value to others this week and lead where I'm currently at? And I think if you ask yourself that question, it's going to reveal a lot of things about where you're at and kind of where your heart is and where your motivations are at. Because here's the thing, you can make a difference where you're at. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.